Hi guys, PJB31APB here, and today I am making my very first tutorial. Oh my goodness! Like I said, I'm here, and in the background is the peanut gallery as usual. She's homesick from school today, but she is cleaning up a mess that she left behind in the meantime. So today's tutorial is going to be, like I said, it's going to be my first one, so please bear with me. I'm sure I will be struggling and miss a couple of steps, and any kind of positive, constructive criticism, critiquing is always welcome. I want these to be enjoyable and easy for you to understand. So anyway, here we go. We are going to learn today how to crochet in the round and have a straight seam. I guess some people think it can't be done. I know for a fact that it can be done. If you look in my Fresh Off the Hook Thursday #2 video, you will see I made a dinosaur hat, and I put the dinosaur spikes on the back up the seam. The seam was perfectly straight. So for this purposes of this tutorial today, I'm not going to get into anything extra. We don't need stitch markers and stuff like that. We just need a yarn and a hook. So I'm using Loops and Threads Impeccable yarn, and I'm using a letter H, an H crochet hook. I'm not sure how well that's coming in. So anyway, we're going to get started, and to start we're going to do a magic circle, and this tutorial is going to assume that you know the basics of crochet, that you know how to do a magic circle, that you know how to do the stitches that we are going to use. So I have wrapped the sorcery. Ah! So I have, because it's a magic circle?
Yeah.
Whatever. So I have wrapped the yarn around my fingers. I'm going to pull through, I'm going to pull up a loop, and then I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to adjust my fingers so that I can crochet comfortably. I'm going to chain two, and we are going to use half double crochets for this tutorial. So here we go. Yarn over, pull through two, pull through two. I think we'll do 10. Okay, so here we are at 10 double crochets in our ring, and we're going to pull to tighten. I used to like to pull mine tight from the jump, but now I like to leave it loose for a little while until the roundness has formed the way that I want it. Now this is, in my opinion, this is the key to making sure that you have a straight seam. First of all, this chain two, these turning chains that we did right here, we're not going to count those as a stitch, and that's very important. Second of all is locating your actual stitch. When you look at this individual stitch right here, you have the stitch on top and you have the post underneath. The stitch tends to run behind the post. So when you crochet, when you join, and you join right here, let me make sure that you can see that. So when you join, and you join in the top of the first double crochet, that means that you are using that stitch, and you're going to have to go back in to this stitch again. So if we join like so, that means we're going to have to go back into that same stitch right there to make our first stitch. We're actually going to have to go in twice. No, we're not. We're going to have to count our turning chain as one stitch, and then we're going to have to go back in to get our second stitch. Let me make sure that you can see that. Boy, those of you who do tutorials on a regular basis, I commend you, because this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I keep coming out of the camera frame here. So we don't want to do this. We don't want to join our circle in the top of the first stitch. We want to join our circle in the top of the turning chain, which is these two stitches right here. You can see a V here, and you can see a V right here, right? We want to join in the top of that, because we're not counting that as a stitch. We'll be able to utilize this to keep our seam straight. Okay, so we've gone through, we're going to join, chain two, and I like to use chain twos for double crochets because it pulls the turning chains a little bit tauter. And now you can see below the first turning chain. Now here comes the most important part. We are not going to do anything in the stitch in which we just joined. We don't want to do that. If we do that, it's going to push our seam over to what we're seeing as our left. And then when we flip the hat over this way, the seam is going to go to the right. And we don't want that. We want our seam to stay straight. So we are not going to do anything in this. We are going to go into the first chain, the first stitch here. You know that it's the first stitch because you can see your turning chains here. You can see your turning chains here. You can see your first stitch post here, and the top of that stitch is going to run behind that post. So you go right into there, oh, and yarn over. Now we're going to do 2 double crochets in each stitch. Sorcery. You are so sweet.
I'm just not going to say anything so I can figure out.
Okay, you're just going to hush. You're just going to be quiet.
Yeah.
Good idea. So that's 4 double crochets, and I will meet you at the end of this round. Okay, you guys, so we're back, and we're at the last stitch. And when you look, this is what makes your seam straight right here. So when you look, it looks like I have 2 stitches left. It looks like I have a stitch right here and a stitch right here. But remembering that the tops of the stitches ride behind the post, right? You're going to look at what the next post is, and as you can see, the next post is our previous turning chain. It's not a post. So that tells me that we have 1 stitch left. So I'm going to go ahead and 2 double crochet in here, and if you want to check your stitches right now, you can go back and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and here is our turning chain for this row. So we're in good shape. And again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pay attention to where we are joining our circle, and we want to join it in the top of the previous chain 2. So here's the chain, here's 1, here's 2, and then here's the first stitch in that row. So we don't want to go here, we want to go right here in the top of that chain 2, and then we'll have a nice pulled taut seam that isn't going to bulge out. And I find that sometimes when you chain 3 instead of chaining 2 for a double crochet, you get kind of a bulge at the seam that I don't particularly care for. So I'm going to chain 2, and then you can see your seam is starting to take shape. Here's your second row with your chain 2 turning chain, and here's your first row with your 2 turning chains. So now we're just going to continue on. I like to crochet, I like to put all of my increases on top of each other. Some people don't, but I like to because I personally don't mind that pie shaped look that you get when you do that. I'm not the most conscientious with counting my stitches, so I have an easy reference to see if I'm in the right place by the time I get to the end of my round, if I'm finishing on an increase as opposed to not finishing on an increase. So we're just going to keep going around here doing another increase, and I will meet you at the last couple of stitches. Okay, so we're back again at our last stitch here, and again you can see it appears as though there's 2, and that second one is actually the stitch that belongs to your turning chain right here, and we don't want to go into that. So I'm going to do my last 2 stitches, and then we are going to join at the top of our turning chain, and we'll go right back into the next stitch. We're never counting our turning chain as a stitch. We are always just using it to step up and to help keep our seam even, looking all the way down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue to crochet in the round. I'm just going to turn this into a quick beanie. I might even just do a baby beanie because this is just for show purposes, just so you can see that my seam does come out straight. And the thing that you want to make sure of, that you remember, is that you're not counting your turning chain as a stitch, so that you're not crocheting into your turning chain at all, and that you are making sure that you are not crocheting into that turning chain stitch at the end either. And I suppose if you want to stagger your increases, you can do so. That should not affect whether or not your seam is going to be straight or not. So you should be able to stagger your increases, but just pay attention because you want to make sure that you have the right number of stitches at the end. Some of the things that I have found when I don't count my stitches is, in addition to a crooked seam, I have also found that I have had hats that had bulges at the seam because I would not count my stitches. I would have extra stitches. I would increase in the back there, and then I would catch it, and then I would quick decrease, and it would make a bubble at the back of the hat. So if you're going to stagger your increases, just make sure that you're counting your stitches all the way around so that you have the correct number of stitches at the end of the row, so that you don't get any of those funny little lumps and twists that extra stitches can do. And I will come back. I think I'm going to finish this row, and then I'm going to just go ahead and turn this into a hat. At this point also, you know, I'm 4 rows in. I should be able to, I'm usually around now I would pull my starting string, my starting tail taut, and close up the hole. Sometimes I just find that I get less ruffling when I leave the hole loose for a few rows and just get my crochet project started, and then I can pull it taut and it's not going to ruffle on me. So I will come back when I'm closer to the end of whatever this is, well, this little bitty hat. I will come back when I'm closer to the end of it and show you what my seam looks like. Okay, so I'm back, and as you can see, I did a color change row just because I felt like it. And this is about as far as I want to go as far as this piece is concerned. I wasn't planning on making a baby hat, but it is baby hat size. But this is just for tutorial purposes only, and well, I just didn't feel like I would frog it afterwards, so I may as well keep it and sell it or do whatever I'm gonna do with it. It's a little baby boy hat. Maybe I'll make a pom-pom for it in dark blue and the teal. But we're just going to keep going around until we get to the last stitch, and we'll know the last stitch. I'll show again what I do to determine what my last stitch is. And wait till you see this seam, you guys. It is so nice and straight. It's, in my opinion, it's barely noticeable. So, ugh. Can't get this to go here. But yeah, having a straight seam and crochet that looks as good as some of the stuff that you see on like Etsy and other YouTube videos, it really is about paying attention to the details, little bitty details, because yes, crochet is forgiving in that if you end up with an extra stitch or two here or there, most times it doesn't matter. Most times it's not going to mess you up. But if you do it right, then it doesn't need to forgive you. You know, it's just, it really is about paying attention to the details. Details will get you every time. Details are the reason why I was disqualified from Marcel's giveaway, because I didn't pay attention to the details because I'm a dumb dummy. But anyway, we're not here to debate about my intelligence level. We're here to do a tutorial, and we are coming up on the end of our row, and here we go with the details. So it looks like there's 2 stitches, a blue stitch here and a brown stitch here. We're not going to stitch into that brown stitch because when you look at the brown, now this is the tail right here. I can't find it, but this right here is our turning chain, which means that this stitch, oh, what is this? I'll have to find that and fix that. But this is our turning chain right here, which means that the top of this stitch belongs to that turning chain. We don't want to go in there. We want to go in this last stitch here. And we want to go in the stitch correctly. This extra loop of yarn is going to drive me over the edge. Alright, so there we go. And as always, we're going to join in the top of that chain 2. And at this point, if you'd like, you can add your elastic. You can add a single crochet border around the edge or whatever kind of border you want. I think this is kind of cute just the way it is. Okay, so there is our hat, right? And let's look at the seam. Can you find the seam on here? Is it noticeable? Is it obvious? To me, looking at it like this, it is not obvious. But knowing that I know what I'm looking at, this is my seam right here. This is a perfectly straight seam, and it goes all the way from here's our first chain 2, here's our next, here's our next, here's our next. You can see the V. Here's our next. No wait, here's our next. Sorry. Here's our next, here's our next, here's our next, and here's our last, right here. So there we go with our straight seam. It's all in where you place your stitches. It's all in making sure that you don't count your turning chain as a stitch. You always crochet in the first stitch after your turning chain. That would be your next stitch. When they say crochet in the next stitch, that would be this one. And you always make sure that you end in your last crochet, your last stitch of the row, not in the turning chain stitch. And that will guarantee you every single time, that will guarantee you a nice straight seam. So there you have it. Yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave one below for me or contact me via personal message or what have you, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. I hope that this was clear, concise, and understandable, and I hope that this technique works out for you guys. And if it does, please feel free to post up a video response or send me some pictures and let me know. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Bye.
Telling people to show them their source.
My sorcery.
Bye.
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 Bye.